This is a given. You make people feel that they're in this kind of a life, they will have fewer children. I have a domestic help in India. She comes from a village in the tribal areas. She's one of the, what you would call, indigenous people. When she came to the city, she told me she had 8 or 9 siblings, and each of them had 8 or 9 kids, and she had one. And when she came to the city, she saw what opportunities there are. And she happened to get pregnant with a second kid, and she went just totally catatonic. This was just something that ruined her whole sort of future, because she had decided she was going to have a different kind of a life. It's a very, very dramatic change when you know that you have opportunities, and that your child is not going to die in childbirth or in young age, and so on. So you've got all these incredible evidence, which I think we've been just ignoring. You can plot them, you can do mathematics with them, which I've done, and I developed a model using the same techniques as the limits to growth did. And basically what it amounts to is that if you can look at this, at the top end you have the low development people, and in the middle you have the medium ones, and in the bottom you have the rich ones. If you were to take just a little bit of energy from the ones who've got lots, Americans use 7,000 kilograms of oil equivalent a year. You took, let us say, a few hundred of those and give it over here, you come crashing down that fertility curve. And let me show you where. Here is a dot which represents basically Vietnam. 5 babies per woman, roughly 500 kilograms of oil equivalent energy they use. Now, if you were just to add a little bit of energy into their lives, they would come basically into somewhere around the equivalent of Thailand at roughly 2 children per woman. Now, this is a very dramatic change. By the year 2050, that adds up to a lot of babies, births averted. And you essentially can have a very, very minor intervention which can make a big difference. Now, I'm not suggesting we take a ton of oil from the Americans and give it to the Vietnamese. That's not necessary. There are even better ways to do it, and those are very simple ways. And there are people in this room who know that if you make the lives of people, particularly of girls and women, somewhat better by giving them a little light, giving them a little education, giving them livelihoods, the whole thing dramatically changes. And it's happened in my own work over and over again. There are 1.2 billion people in the first world, rich people, 1.2 or 3 billion people in the extreme poverty one, and there are 4 billion in the middle. What we really got to do is essentially look at how to change the quality of their lives in such a way that it makes a difference. So I developed this model with my colleagues, and it's very powerful. You can change all your assumptions, check them out, and you can look at the sensitivities. And as a result of running that model through over and over again, using only UNDP and World Bank data, you find over and over again that the total number of people that you can expect, business as usual. B stands for business as usual. That means fertility of today going on, fertility patterns today. And if you were to transfer that 1,000 kilograms of oil equivalent, your total population would come down by almost 3 billion. You were saying 2 billion. It's easy. 2 billion is easy. It's a no-brainer. It's even possible to do better than that. So now, if you've reduced the number of people, you've reduced the amount of carbon emission, haven't you? Kyoto will give you CDM, the Clean Development Mechanism, which is an outcome of the Kyoto Protocol, will give you any amount of money if you figure out a way to reduce your carbon emissions from your power station. I put in a fluidized bed reactor, I get $1 billion for it. I put my carbon dioxide into the ground, which is the most cockeyed idea I've ever heard of, and you get billions of dollars. But if you save a birth, which saves 1 ton per year for 60 years, you get nothing. There's no way you can get a penny. I mean, is Kyoto about saving carbon, or is it about increasing commerce? All this, the Kyoto consequences are basically about giving money to those who already have, because they're saving money for big industrial projects or mining projects. It has nothing to do with actually saving carbon. That was not the purpose of it. I'm almost through. So the consequence of all this is, let's look at it in detail. You have more energy. Energy at home, electricity, light. We all know that light itself is a terrific contraceptive, but it also leads to better knowledge, ability to work. Energy makes factories and farming and community things possible, and all of these lead to empowerment, jobs, livelihoods, all of which lead to a dramatically reduced desire for large families. So here they are. These are the people that you put a little bit of extra effort into, and you get one person saving you over 60 years, $1,200 worth of carbon. If you evaluate carbon at $20, it could be a little less or more. The evidence is, and we've got plenty of it, that if a woman has a direct access to things like light, education, and livelihoods, you're going to end up by at least 2 or 3 births avoided. Let's assume just 2. You get $2,400. You give that to a development program to provide education, literacy, whatever. You end up by a huge saving in the number of people by the year 2050. And that's it. I would like just to leave it at that.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. That's great. So I'd like to recognize some hands up, ask my panel members to come back. I've got lots of questions, but I'll shut up and hand over to the floor first. If you could identify yourself and make your question clear. Thank you.
My name is Manuel da Silva. I'm from Deputy Executive Director of World Food Programme. Bright presentations, but I would like just to put a question and a comment. The question is, the reason why people have children is lack of access to reproductive health systems, but it's also about perceptions of mortality. And if you ask, particularly in Africa, that is the part of the world I know well, people have children because they think that they're going to lose a lot of children, and because children are the insurance for social protection when they get old. This is the 2 main reasons why they have so large numbers. And we ask women in Africa, and they are pretty blanket on it. You didn't introduce on your model any correlation with social protection systems and safety, with social protection systems.
Well, I call it old age security. There was a map with old age security.
Okay, but I would like to have this further. Second thing is about the famous change of perception. There are always a generation gap. If you look to the demographic models in Africa, when people live better, actually, initially, they have more children, and it takes time to go down. And I don't know if you haven't introduced that in your model. In general, the other things, I'm very much in your line of rational. On food security, I want to emphasize that the issue of food security is access to food and not food production. And the world has more than enough food to feed everybody and continue to have for many years. What is also poverty and is access to food. And that is the main reason. And we can eat better with less energy also. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me take a few more questions.